When you hear the name Marie Antoinette, you think of powder, pastries, and gelatin. She was accused of extravagance, mocked in caricatures, and hated as an Austrian. But who was she really? Today we will tell her story, from childhood in Vienna to her last day in Paris, about a little girl from the Hofburg family. She became a pawn in great politics. Why France did not accept her and how she tried to build her refuge away from the court will be told further. What was behind the myth? Did she ever say, "Let them eat cake"? What happened in the last days of her life, and what did the silence in her cell look like? This is not just a queen's story. It is a tale about a person trapped by history, expectations, and silence. Suggest topics for new videos and subscribe to the channel. Stories for Sleep come out every day. Get comfortable. Now we will go to the 18th century, where the gilding of Versailles hid anxiety and the approaching storm. Maria Antonia was born on November 6, 1955 in Vienna at the Imperial Hofburg Palace. She was the 15th child of Empress Maria Theresa and Emperor Francis I. Her mother was the only woman on the throne in the history of the Habsburg monarchy. She was not just the head of a vast empire, but also Francis I was the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, but played a gentle role in the family. In the Habsburg family, every child was part of a diplomatic calculation. Luxury and upbringing was limited only to appearance. At its core were simplicity and strict discipline to prepare children for future responsibility. Antonia grew up among many brothers and sisters in a house bustling with family life and important international affairs. She was not distinguished by academic success. Teachers complained about her absent-mindedness and lack of diligence, but she loved music and had a good ear. The servants loved Antonia for her openness and gentle character. Father Franz I showed her special warmth, often affectionately stroking her head. Despite his busyness, the father found time for conversations and walks with the children, often calling Antonia little vis-a-vis. The sudden death of Franz I in 1765 shocked Antonia, who was only 10 years old then. Black draperies were hung in the Hofburg, music lessons were canceled. Antonia felt for the first time that life could bring serious trials. Thus began a new stage in the girl's life, when she faced the bitterness of loss and understood the seriousness of life changes. The death of her father changed the atmosphere in the family. Maria Theresa withdrew into herself, but the upbringing of the children did not weaken. Special attention was given to Antonia, preparing her for adult life. She was taught the French language, posture, behavior at receptions, even how to hold a cup. Everything mattered for her future role in politics and society. One spring day, playing in the garden with her younger sister, Antonia overheard the maid talking about the upcoming move to France. The girl just smiled, not paying attention to the words. To her, France seemed like a magical and distant place. She did not yet know that soon her name would change to Marie Antoinette, and her life would change drastically. At 14, Marie Antonia already understood that she would not stay in Vienna. Her mother was negotiating with France, and an alliance through marriage seemed the best solution after long wars. The French Dauphin, grandson of Louis X, needed a bride. The Austrian princess was perfect for strengthening alliances between the states. When the decision was made, Antonia was called to her mother. The conversation was brief. "You will marry the Dauphin of France. This is important for the empire, and you will manage." In the spring of 1770, official documents arrived. The French court gave consent to the marriage. The proxy ceremony took place in Vienna. Antonia formally married Louis XVI. A few days later, she was sent to the border where a pavilion was built, a neutral territory. A ritual of breaking with the past took place in the pavilion. Her Austrian clothes were taken off, and her toys, letters, and jewelry were confiscated. She emerged in a new dress sewn in Paris and received a new name, Marie Antoinette. A new life began in France. The first days in France were like a parade, traveling through cities, receptions, flowers, and crowds of enthusiastic people. In Strasbourg, children sang to her. In Reims, bells rang. During the day, there was a banquet, and in the evening, fireworks. So many people gathered in the square in Paris that a stampede occurred. More than 100 people died, but the palace did not speak about it. The next morning, Marie Antoinette woke up in a huge canopy bed in the Dauphin's bedroom. She was surrounded by maidservants. She no longer belonged to herself. Everything, from her hairstyle to her facial expression, was now part of a public role. She became a French princess but remained the same girl. Once she fed parrots in the Hofburg greenhouse. The relationship with her husband remained strained. Louis was awkward and silent, spending evenings with his collection of keys, showing neither romance nor involvement. Their union was a formality. Rumors that the marriage was unconsummated reached even the Viennese court, highlighting the coldness of their relationship. To distract herself, Marie Antoinette sought solace in entertainments, playing cards, attending the opera, and hosting costume balls. She especially loved the Petit Trianon, the country residence in Versailles, where there was no protocol, only freedom and peace away from the court. In the close circle of friends, music could be played at any hour and dresses worn without corsets. For Versailles, this was a challenge to traditions and court norms. Courtiers did not understand why the queen played shepherdess, wore simple dresses, and sometimes served tea to her guests herself, breaking court rules. Newspapers began writing about the queen's extravagance, and caricatures depicted her dancing, laughing, dressed beneath her rank, provoking condemnation and gossip. The empress wrote sharp letters to her daughter, patiently urging her to wait but emphasizing, "You must fulfill your duty," increasing the tension within the family. Eventually, in the year 1778, the queen gave birth to a daughter, Maria Theresa, which slightly eased the pressure and sparked public interest. Half of Paris came to the fireworks display. The crowd greeted the baby. Carriages with gifts kept arriving for several days, creating a festive atmosphere in the city. But the queen no longer rejoiced as before. She understood that public opinion was fickle, and outwardly everything seemed fine. But inside, there was anxiety. Around her was glitter, balls, dresses, music. But inside grew a feeling of isolation. She was the wife of the Dauphin, the future king, but felt neither love nor support. Every slightest mistake became a reason for whispers, and a smile, a reason for suspicion. She lived in the Golden Palace, surrounded by mirrors, but did not see herself in them. She wore a mask that was put on when she transitioned from childhood to a role, from one country to another. It was not her essence, but merely a public image. When Louis X died, Louis became king, and Marie Antoinette, Queen of France. She was only 19 years old and tried to maintain dignity. In the first days after the coronation, she did not hide her anxiety. The responsibility now lay on her as the monarch's wife and as a princess. The people watched her every step with hope, curiosity, and sometimes suspicion. Her life became a public spectacle where there was no room for mistakes. Upon becoming queen, Marie Antoinette received the Petit Trianon, a country palace in the Versailles Park, built during the reign of Louis XIV. The Petit Trianon became her refuge. She ordered that no one enter without a personal invitation, not even ministers and courtiers. For the first time in her life, Marie Antoinette had a space where she could simply be herself, without masks or expectations. At the Trianon, she gathered a close circle of trusted people, those who understood and supported her in difficult times. Ladies, actresses, musicians, and a few aristocrats unconnected to court intrigues gathered together. There were no grand balls, political disputes, or long speeches here. Instead of official events, they strolled through the garden, listened to music, and had light conversations on warm evenings without witnesses or prying eyes. On the palace grounds, Marie Antoinette established a small village with a farm, a mill, and a pond, where real cows and chickens were kept, cheese was made, and bread was baked. Marie Antoinette loved walking through these village streets in a simple muslin dress and straw hat, not pretending to be a peasant, but simply escaping court life. It was her way to avoid the pressure and constant attention she experienced at Versailles. Many at court did not understand this behavior and considered it bold. For the conservative nobility, a queen who refused lavish receptions and wore simple dresses was a challenge to tradition and court etiquette. For people suffering from an economic crisis, her game of playing farmer seemed like mockery, and the newspapers ridiculed her village and her way of life. In pamphlets, she was depicted milking cows with diamonds on her fingers, mocking her attempts to find peace amid the country's crisis. Despite this, she continued to visit her secluded place, knowing that every step she took was watched and her behavior discussed. In letters to her brother Joseph II, she admitted that Trianon was the only place where she could breathe freely and be herself. One day she wrote, "I was not born for this throne. There are too many eyes here and too little silence," acknowledging the burden of her role. Her brother tried to convince her, reminding her that the queen could not be a private person and had to observe public expectations and duties. She did not listen, and Louis rarely intervened. He did not object to her hobbies, did not forbid trips to Trianon, and did not comment on her expenses. He himself preferred solitude, hunting, mechanical locks, and books. Their union was cold but calm, outwardly a royal couple, in life like neighbors. One day at Trianon, Marie Antoinette held a small musical evening. Only close friends participated: a cellist, singers, a chamber scene, a few girlfriends. She appeared in a light dress without a crown, ribbon, or wig, with her hair down. Someone said, "You are not a queen, you are simply Marie." She smiled and replied, "That's exactly why I come here." But even there, the pressure remained. Rumors of love intrigue seeped through the walls of the Trianon. Newspapers hinted, gossip exaggerated, politicians gathered compromising material. Everything she did was interpreted as a symbol of frivolity and extravagance. She was criticized for expenses, but historians would later calculate the upkeep of the Petit Trianon was incomparably cheaper than other residences. The problem was not in the numbers, but in the symbol. People were starving, and she remained silent, neither condemning nor speaking. Silence. Royal speeches sounded louder than words. There, this phrase is attributed to a great princess whose name is not mentioned. At that time, Marie Antoinette was only 10 years old and she lived in Vienna. When the French Revolution began, the queen was demonized and the quote became firmly associated with her despite the lack of evidence. Marie Antoinette became a convenient target. She was disliked because she was a foreigner and a recluse at Trianon. Unemployment and poverty were growing in the country, while at court, women powdered their hair with flour, living in luxury and carefreeness. Newspapers and caricatures depicted her dancing and laughing, surrounded by admirers and jewels, while the people stood in long lines. No one checked the facts, and the image was convenient and took on a life of its own. The real Marie Antoinette was neither insanely extravagant nor indifferent to the suffering of the people. At the beginning of her stay in France, she often made donations and visited shelters, supporting widows and orphans. She was raised in the spirit of dynastic duty, not political sensitivity. Public opinion lost to the queen. She did not make a public explanation, did not give interviews, and did not try to defend herself before the people. She hoped that the truth would triumph on its own. The times changed. It was not enough to be innocent. One had to know how to manage the image, which she never learned. People saw not reality, but a caricature. Her face was printed on cheap leaflets called Madame Deficit, and her image was used for satire in theaters and public squares. In street plays, she was compared to a vampire who sucks the blood of the country. These attacks did not cease for a day, breeding hatred and fear around her. At some point, she decided to change tactics. She began dressing more modestly, appeared at charity events, trying to show that she was not alien to her people. By the end of the 1780s, France had plunged into crisis. The harvests were poor, bread prices were rising, and unemployment was increasing. The treasury was empty, and external debts were enormous. Any tax increase caused outrage and protests across the country. The streets of Paris were becoming increasingly restless. Anonymous leaflets accusing the authorities were spreading everywhere. Questions were increasingly heard. Where is the money going? Who is to blame? And why does no one answer for the people's hardships? Marie Antoinette felt the mood in the country changing, but hoped until the last that the storm would pass by. She believed that the government would hold, that changes would not affect the royal family, and that everything would improve over time. The people were tired and returned to submission, unaware that France had already changed. Newspapers openly wrote about the king's weakness and the queen's heartlessness. One pamphlet accused the queen of spending on hairstyles equal to the bread for 1,000 families. Other pamphlets claimed that the queen was obstructing reforms. The accusations had no evidence but spread quickly and intensified public discontent. Marie Antoinette hardly appeared in public. Her absence was explained in different ways: fear or contempt for the people, which further fueled rumors. She wrote to her brother Joseph II in Vienna, confessing that she did not know how to behave. He advised her to act quickly, impose reforms on the king, and speak to the people. She did not believe in the power of words. Since childhood, she had been taught that the monarchy was eternal and the people should remain obedient, which hindered her understanding of change. Anonymous threats came to Versailles almost every day. Tension was rising, and the people began to take to the streets with weapons and barricades. On July 14th, the Bastille was taken. The fortress was barely defended, but its fall became a symbol of a new era. Soon crowds marched on Versailles. On October 5th, the women of Paris, market women, laundresses, and cooks, marched on foot to the royal palace. There were more than 6,000 of them. They demanded bread and justice, expressing the hunger and discontent of the common people. On the morning of October 6th, the crowd stormed into Versailles. Guards were killed, and the royal family was forced to appear on the balcony. The royal family lived in the Tuileries for almost 2 years. They stopped being called Their Majesties. Now they were Mr. and Mrs. Capet by the name of their ancestors. They could not leave the palace without permission. All letters were opened, and every step was carefully monitored by the guards, which increased their isolation. Marie Antoinette, raised at the strict Viennese court, found the isolation hard to bear. Her children, Marie-Thérèse and Louis Charles, hardly ever went outside. Her husband, the king, silently studied geographic treatises and the map of France, immersed in thoughts about the fate of his family and country. Marie Antoinette wrote secret letters to her brother in Vienna, begging him to intervene and save the crown, hoping for help from outside. In March, she began discussing an escape plan with the king. At night, they planned to leave Paris by carriage disguised as aristocrats. Their goal was to reach the border town of Montmédy, where allies were already waiting to help them escape and restore power. But the disguise was weak. On the night of June 20th to 21st, they left Paris, beginning a dangerous journey. The journey was slow. The carriage was heavy, the road difficult. Changing horses took a lot of time. Instead of 14 hours, the trip took 22. Louis insisted on stops, wanted to eat and talk with the peasants. He could not remain unnoticed and attracted attention. In the town of Saint-Menehould, only 30 kilometers from the destination, the postman recognized them. He compared the king to the image on a coin. The postman raised the alarm. The local guards received orders to detain the carriage passengers and arrest them. The king tried to explain his identity, but thereby confirmed it. On the morning of June 22nd, the whole family was arrested. They were held in the town hall among soldiers and officials, awaiting official orders from Paris on further actions. A crowd gathered in the square. Some were silent, some spat on the ground, and some saw a living king nod on the throne for the first time. The king was carried on the balcony like an ordinary tired man in dusty clothes. The return trip took 4 days. Along the road, crowds silently watched and followed with their eyes. Sometimes someone shouted, "Traitor!" but mostly there was silence. The carriage was accompanied by the National Guard. This was not a return of monarchs, but a convoy of prisoners. In Paris, the news of the escape caused shock. Even the doubters understood. The king was trying to flee not from danger, but from the people. The deputies of the National Assembly felt deceived. The crowd was loyal. Journalist Camille Desmoulins wrote, "The king was not a prisoner, but an actor. He was acting while planning the escape." Rumors multiplied every day. It was said that Marie Antoinette had passed secret letters to Austria, that she wanted civil war and was ready to betray France for the throne. None of the accusations were proven. After Varennes, the reputation of the royal family was destroyed. The next day, Marie Antoinette was silent and did not even speak to her husband, immersed in despair. Louis was reading the Bible and remained silent. Marie Antoinette was writing letters abroad to her brother Leopold II in Vienna, and then to his successor Franz II. She begged for intervention, insisting that the revolution threatened all of Europe. The letters were from a mother, wife, and queen who did not want to give up the throne. She believed that help would come, that an army was being prepared abroad, and that France would realize its mistake. But time was working against her. Every day, her absence from the public sphere was interpreted as contempt for the people. Every rumor was taken as truth. The newspapers wrote that she was conspiring with Austria, that she was a spy and was conducting secret correspondence with the enemies. Someone claimed that she had Austrian maps under her pillow. The royal family took refuge in the Legislative Assembly Hall, but it was clear to everyone. The king's power was over, and the monarchy was suspended that very day. Louis was no longer called king. His title changed to Citizen Capet, which meant the end of the monarchy and the beginning of a new era. A few days later, the royal family was transferred to prison, the old fortress of the Temple, with old bars, guards, and lockable doors. Marie Antoinette found herself in a cell with an iron bed and bare walls. Instead of servants, guards instead of letters, dead silence. The children were with them, but they were only allowed to see them with the guards' permission. Sometimes paper and ink were brought so Marie Antoinette could write letters. These letters are now kept in archives. The handwriting trembled, but the language was polite and clear, as if she preserved her dignity in prison. Louis was tried first. The trial was public, and he was charged with 33 counts, including attempted escape and undermining the Constitution. He answered calmly, briefly, often remaining silent. In January 1793, he was sentenced to death. Marie Antoinette saw her husband for the last time the day before the execution. He hugged the children and held his son's hand for a long time. He said nothing to her, but his gaze was full of bitterness and farewell. It was the last moment of their life together. The next day, he was taken out of the cell exactly at 10 in the morning. At noon, there was a meeting with Guillotina. After that, she never left her room again. Guillotina's health deteriorated sharply. Her diet became meager, and her sleep was intermittent and restless. In April, her son was taken away, with the claim that he would be raised according to the laws of the new republic. She asked for permission to at least say goodbye to her son, but was denied. Only her daughter, Maria Theresa, remained. They lived nearby, but under different supervision. Sometimes they managed to exchange short notes almost without words. "I am here," or "I'm alive." She was constantly watched, even when she went to the toilet. The court began its session on October 14th. The charges against her were severe and harsh: treason, aiding enemies, participating in conspiracies, and embezzlement. One charge seemed especially absurd: seduction of her own son. Prosecutor Fouquenville spoke loudly and forcefully. Tension filled the courtroom. The woman stood up, turned pale, and said, "I have been silent, but a mother must answer this accusation." She addressed those present. "Nature rejects this. I appeal to those who have been parents." After her words, silence fell in the room. Even her enemies looked away. But the silence changed nothing. She wore a simple white dress. Her hair was cut short, her hands free and open. She walked towards her fate with dignity and calm. The crowd moved along the streets. People shouted, laughed, and spat. Someone was silent, but no one stepped forward to defend her. Her hands were tied behind her back. One of the guards accidentally stepped on her foot. She flinched sharply, then quietly said, "Excuse me, it was unintentional." Politeness before death. In the year 1815, when the Bourbons returned to power, the remains of Louis XIII and Marie Antoinette was reburied in the royal crypt of the Basilica of Saint-Denis. A tombstone was erected for her, her title was restored, and the church held a funeral service, but it was already too late. The myth of Marie Antoinette became stronger than the monarchy itself. Her image changed dozens of times, reflecting different views and eras. For the revolutionaries, she was a foreign Austrian spendthrift, arrogant and useless. The image was full of hostility and accusations. For the royalists, she was a martyr, a woman who died out of loyalty to her husband and the throne, a symbol of sacrifice and fidelity. In the 19th century, she began to be portrayed as tender and suffering, almost saintly. In the 20th century, she became an icon of fashion and style. The phrase, "let them eat cake," which she never uttered, remained in textbooks and is quoted in various languages. The source of this phrase is false, but it continues to be attributed to Marie Antoinette, creating a false image. Artists painted her portraits, sometimes radiant, sometimes tired, sometimes lost, reflecting different sides of her personality. In films, she is shown in powder, lace, among cakes and balls, although in real life there were far fewer balls than silences. In letters, memoirs of contemporaries, and archives, another image has been preserved: a woman who was deprived of her homeland and freedom. She lived on stage and could not leave backstage. She was not prepared for collapse, but she always kept her posture. The question remains in history: who was Marie Antoinette really? A victim, a culprit, a symbol of an era, or a hostage? Perhaps the answer is not needed, because the main thing is how her memory continues to live and influence us. How memory can turn the living into legend. She no longer speaks, but her story resonates in books and on screens, in the silence of museum halls. And maybe tonight, when the city quiets down and the narrator's voice softens, you can imagine a little girl in Vienna. She feeds a parrot in the orangery. She does not yet know that she will be called differently, and no one hates her yet. She simply lives and breathes freely, enjoying the moment without fear or worries.